Okay, so good morning, friends. Thank you once again for joining on uh, educational webinars of Falcon Push. So today we will talk about a very interesting concept called situational leadership. And I hope that all of you would not only enjoy it, but you will also implement it in your work or in your professional life. So what's there on the agenda today? So we will talk about various leadership styles. We will talk about specifically about situational leadership style or model, I would say. And finally, we will also look at that what type of leadership works. And obviously, that type of leadership is flexible leadership. So before we start or get into the situational leadership model and how does it get implemented, let's have a little bit brief discussion about that. What do we mean by various leadership styles? So leadership styles can be actually defined in many manner or categorized in many manner. We all are aware of autocratic, authoritative, participative, democratic, delegating, collaborating. And in fact, there is a new one called servantile, where the leader feels that she is rather a servant to the team members than some sort of a master. And again, it has its own great advantages and maybe some disadvantages too. So what is situational leadership in that context of categorization? It's not actually a categorization on these levels or on these styles, but what it is, it's actually a model in itself. In fact, this was developed almost 50 years back and is still used extensively by various managers, leaders, and coaches in order to get the best performance out of the teams and individuals. It was built up by, it was created or it was introduced by these two gentlemen, and this book is still available and you can read that, called, these people were Kenneth Blanchard and Paul Hersey, and they developed this very interesting way of looking at the teams and looking at the leaders and their style and how do they work and how do they manage it, the teams and individuals. So what it is, so let's define leadership style first. Now, according to this model, leaders generally lead or manage people or coach people by using two behaviors. One is a directive behavior where you provide directions, you provide what to do, how to do it, and obviously making sure that you are there supervising on every step. And in case there is a course correction required, you do the course correction, but you are by and large in a mode of what we call telling what need to be done and how need to be done. Supportive behavior is where you provide a lot of support. You are still telling, but you are also listening a lot, but you do provide a lot of support. Support in terms of motivation, support in terms of confidence building, support in terms of trust, and all such things. Now, if you look at these two behaviors, then you will realize that you can actually have four types of leadership styles. One, where you are predominantly directive. Direction is what you give the most. Second, you have a mixed balance of directive and supportive. In fact, most of us fall in there. Predominantly supportive, which is a little bit less on direction because it may be that that's how you feel people learn. And finally, where you provide neither too much of direction nor too much of support, but you are more in a role of a counselor if required. And you by and large in an observation mood provide vision and new strategy. That's what your role is. Now you can assess your own style. You can actually, there is a situational leadership model assessment test or leadership style assessment test where you can go and take that test yourself and then realize, and actually you can give them the name. One is called a directive style, one is called the coaching style, one is called the supportive style, and one is called the delegating style. In directive, you are mainly telling. In coaching, you are mainly selling. In supportive, you are participative. And in delegating, like I said earlier, you're more to have as an observer and make sure that you're providing new dimensions and new challenges to the team and the individual. So which one works better? Now, that's an interesting question. And again, let me clarify. I am not for a moment saying that you only have one style. You may have multiple of these styles, right? However, there will be one style which you are most comfortable with, which gels with your personality, which is something you are you are very, very comfortable with. That's what you generally do. It does not mean that you don't apply other styles. But what will work? Hold on. So what will may work depends upon who are you leading. Like a leader has two dimensions to the personality of leading. A learner or a team member or a team itself may have two directions in order to do a work. One, competency, ability, how skills. Do they have the skills to do that job or not? Have they done something similar to earlier or not? So you may have skills which are transferable or maybe demonstrated. On the other hand, another dimension is commitment, and that comes mainly from how motivated you are and how confident you are that you will be able to do that job. Now, based on these two dimensions, actually, the performer can also be divided into four types, exactly like leaders. Now, for example, they can be low on commitment, low on competence, and high on commitment. And that's what we call, say, D1, enthusiastic beginner. This is somewhere we start. It's like, when you started learning cycle, you were an enthusiastic beginner. You thought that you will do it very easily, and you were really motivated, and you really want to do that job. And you actually even have some, if I can call that, a false confidence. But you're highly motivated. Your commitment was very high. But when you started cycling, or in this case, skiing, you realized after some time that this is not something easy to do. And what happened? While your commitment was high, that comes down, and competence was anyway not there. And suddenly you realize, oh, can I ever do it in my life? You start fearing that. Many people leave actually some skill learning at this level. Many people who tried swimming jumped into the swimming pool thinking that they can really learn it very fast. And then they had that moment of realization that this is difficult. And after that, they have not even dared to venture towards a swimming pool. But if you continue learning, like in this case, you can see, you may move to a D3, which is a high competence and variable commitment. Variable commitment here means your commitment depends upon where you are. So while you now know how to drive after a lot of efforts, but if there is some sort of too much traffic, or there is a high incline, and suddenly you lose that confidence, and commitment is like, can you do it? And you have a doubt creeping in your mind. And finally, if you continue learning, this is adopted by your subconscious mind, who then you are now on your what we call an autopilot, and you really want to do that work. Now, if your performer or team goes through this cycle, what would be the right leadership style to apply? It depends upon. So let's have a look at this example. Assume for a moment that you are someone who is supportive type of a leader, who provides lot of support, but not too much of direction. You remember on the slide we talked about high on support, low in direction. That was S3. Now that's what your personality is. Assume for a moment that suddenly a new person joins in, or a new task come in, maybe to the person you were already working with. Where will that person or team will be? They will actually would be in D1. And what's the quality of D1? Or what's the dimensions of two dimensions of D1? One, that they're low on competency, and two, they're very high on commitment. What do they need? They need direction. They don't need too much of a motivation. What are you providing them? You're providing them not direction, and you're providing them support. So basically, you are providing the team member what she need not, and you are not providing what she needs. This will create confusion. This will create some sort of gap, and the person may start feeling, my boss, what is he doing? Why is he not telling me what needs to be done, and keeps on telling me, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. Now, that's a very scary situation. Similarly, think of a person who doesn't require neither direction nor support. He is in D4. He's a master in his job. And you are the one who is actually really strong in, assume for a moment an S1, you're providing him unnecessary direction. You will be seen as someone who is like micromanaging a person, and person may say, okay, you don't trust me, I can do it, but it's okay if you want me to do it in your way, I'll do it in your way. But there'll be a lot of disillusionment from both the parties. What will work? What will work is right alignment. So if there is someone or a team which is at D1, you may have to provide, and in case you are someone who is in S3, that is someone who provides a lot of support, you have to really cut down on your support, and you have to start providing a lot of direction. You are trying to do something very opposing to your own personality. But if you don't do that, you won't be able to do or have an impact as a coach or a leader. And that's what you have to understand. You have to think, what's the best way in this particular situation or at this particular level, and then align your style based on that particular situation and that particular person. You will be more impactful. This is difficult. It doesn't come easy, but it's a skill. Like any other skill, it can too move from a D1, D2, D3, and D4, right? Remember that. So once you really get into this, that becomes your permanent style, chances are that you will be able to become a better leader and a better coach. It's not about that you are not. What I'm only saying is we all have a base, and we can all improve from the base where we are. So what needs to be done? Flexibility is the key to success. You have to be flexible in your approach. You have to be flexible. If you're assigning tasks, you need to be clear, telling, authoritative. But if you are involved in a session with someone where you're helping the person to grow, that's what your aim is, you need to be participative. You can't do that much. Now, for example, I give it an example in terms of Greg Chappell and Gary Kirsten. Greg Chappell, an authoritative leader. It worked for some situations, but it didn't work when people really start feeling that we know our job, why this guy is telling us everything one by one. Similarly, if you are someone who is really, you are in there is opportunity or there is a time to set directions, to manage people, to take them to the new life, new behaviors, or set new visions on a strategy for the organization, then you have to be progressive, where you are collaborating, authoritative, and you are someone who is really working on all aspects of the leadership. So what's the implementation key? Implementation key is that first you know your leadership style. So I would advise all of you to go and have assessment of your own leadership style. Understand level of your teams and the people you are leading. Adopt to the style, to the one you are leading. Use right communication skill. That's very important, because every development level requires a different communication style. And we can do a session maybe later on sometime in life. Continue to analyze, because situation is dynamic. You have to continuous thinking that, is this working, or do I need to change something? Be flexible. Don't stick up on something which you have learned. This is one big thing. Leaving something good is difficult, but leaving something good may be necessary. Be flexible in your approach and change when required. So enjoy. Learning is a great happy thing to do. My advice to all of you would be to have a more understanding of it. Having said that, I think it will work better if all of you, whosoever is listening to this broadcast, implement it. Because by implementation, words doesn't matter. You may forget everything, supportive, dimension, everything. But if this behavior gets into your personality, you will be obviously a better professional. So thank you very much. And I really enjoyed talking to you on this.